Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to shape the hull. And if you look back at your instructions here, there are a series of steps which involve using the tape measure, eraser tool. There's a note here that says you cannot push-pull curved surfaces, only flat. We'll talk about that in just a minute. I'm going to introduce something a little new and different that I kind of just learned recently. First thing to remember is that you definitely want to make this as close as possible to the original boat that you have next to you right now. So picking up your ruler, you may have to take a few measurements. Maybe you have a curved front end, maybe it comes to a point, and maybe here in the back you have some other design. So try to be as accurate as possible. I know with my design that I have a curve that kind of starts to curve in towards the midpoint here, and that comes in roughly at about 6 inches or so. So I'm going to use my tape measure. I'm going to type in 6. So I clicked once in the back and I just moved forward, typed in 6, hit enter, and there's a reference point. I'm going to use the A for arc tool. I'm going to click once here, the guide, and we know that if we hover along an edge, we can always find the midpoint. Here's the midpoint, click, and depending on what perspective I want to look at, I can also switch over to top view here. Might be an easier view to be looking at. Okay, so there's my outline for the front of my boat. Now this is something that's kind of interesting here. I'm going to use the arrow tool, or in this case I can hit my space bar. I'm going to click once to select this line. Now if you made multiple lines, I'll show you how to do that when I do the back, how to select multiple lines. Now I'm going to use a tool called the rotation tool. Now like push-pull, if you ever hit the control key on your keyboard, you'll notice that you get a little plus symbol. Okay? And this rotation tool is actually going to not only rotate, but it's also going to copy. So one thing that's important is that I'm moving the rotation tool along the front of my boat so that I see a red protractor appear. It looks like a protractor. And I want to go ahead and stop right at the midpoint. Now once again, I've selected my line or lines. I have the rotate tool, and I click the control key once and I released it, and I see a plus symbol appear. What's going to happen is I'm going to click once, there we go, I'm going to click once at the midpoint, making sure the protractor or rotation tool is red, click once. And I'm just going to move my mouse vertically. You'll see a blue line appear. Click a second time. And I can now rotate, which is basically do one of two things. I could either type in 180 or simply rotate 180 degrees until it's sitting the way it's oriented at the moment, and click again. And what I've done there is I basically have duplicated. Let me do the same thing on the back. I'm going to use this time multiple lines. So once again, line tool on my design, starting here in the middle, I have a line that extends out, and according to my drawing, or excuse me, according to my boat with the ruler in my hand, I know that this extends out 1 inch, and then it kind of goes back in again. This is once again about 1 inch in length. I can type these numbers in if I need to. At the same time, you can probably kind of do a little bit more eyeballing here. And then I have another line that kind of comes out like this. Okay, so just draw that general shape, and you're only drawing half of it. And we're going to make this a symmetrical looking boat. So now I'm going to go ahead and rotate, looking at my boat from the back. Now the thing is here, I have multiple lines, or you might even have multiple lines and arcs to select. So I'm going to click on my arrow tool. And if I want to select multiple objects, I'm going to first click on one of them. Okay, you can see this one's blue, and I'm going to go ahead and hold down my shift key, and with my shift key held down, I'm going to click on other lines that I want to select, or arcs. Okay, so after holding down my shift key and selecting those other objects, I can now go back to rotate. Once again, hover, and once you're at the midpoint, hit your control key. Go ahead and click. Move up vertically, rotate 180 degrees,